Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Rogan, the VP of Growth at Embeddable. Hello.
Hey Christian, great to be on the podcast.
Thank you for joining us. At first, please tell us what is Embeddable.
So Embeddable is a headless embedded analytics tool. So I guess a little bit of context around that for people that don't know what headless means. It essentially means you can bring your own front end. And this idea came out of the team behind Trevor.io, which is a BI tool, internal BI tool that's been running since 2016. Essentially, there's no great solution in the market for delivering customer-facing analytics in your application, and we look to provide the dream solution. I can go into a bit more detail of that maybe later on, but that's the high level.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. What do you see is the biggest problem that you solve for your customers?
Yeah, so basically, if you want to show analytics within your application to your end customers, you have sort of two broad options. Either you build it yourself using your engineering team, and you can use open source charting libraries like Chart.js, D3, HighCharts, etc. There's a bunch of them out there. But ultimately, they only give you the front end, a head start on the front end, really. And then you need to edit them and make them look how you want them to look. But then you also need to do your database connection, your row-level security, authorization, caching, localization, and all these kinds of things on top of it. And whenever customers ask for data, nobody ever sees a dashboard and goes, "Okay, I have everything I need." You get loads of customer requests as well, which end up being tickets that go on your backlog. So that approach is quite common, but it becomes very costly on the engineering side. So as a result of that, there's many tools out there that try and provide an off-the-shelf solution, so you don't have to rebuild like a BI tool yourself. But the options that are out there broadly have two main issues. There's a bunch of tools, like Power BI, Looker, Metabase that you can embed in your platform, but they're actually built as BI tools, so their architecture is not really built for the use case. And when you're trying to show analytics to your customers in your application, you want it to load really fast, you want it to look like your application, and ideally you don't want it to cost you too much in engineering hours. The tools that are available on the market at the moment, now if you use any off-the-shelf tool, you're using their line chart, their bar chart, their pie chart. And every time you want to change something, you have to check whether they have built a feature to allow you to do that. So let's say you want to add data labels to your line chart. The company that's providing that service has to have built that as a feature. So it's not as flexible and customizable as doing a custom build. And ultimately, you get varying different degrees of complexity and flexibility in each of these tools. But ultimately, it's not going to look and feel like your application. And then most of these tools also wrap it in an iframe to embed it in your application. And you get this horrible rectangular box from like 2002 that doesn't communicate with your app. Loads really slow because you've got to load their application before you can send the request to the database. And ultimately just provides a pretty terrible user experience to your end users. So we had a look at those two options and we said, okay, how can we get the best of both worlds? And essentially that's how we embarked on doing the headless approach, meaning that you can use so we have all the standard charts that you would expect in an off-the-shelf tool, except we provide them as an open source component library in React, which you can modify to be exactly how you want to be. You can also use any charts from any open source charting library out there. And you can also send like buttons and icons and things from your own design system to us. And then essentially you have the experience that you would expect in an off-the-shelf tool where you can put that together with your data, build out dashboards and deploy them in your application. And we embed using a sort of next-gen method, if you will. So no iframes. We use a web component or JavaScript snippet so that the charts actually load natively within the DOM and they behave as if they're part of your application and also look and feel like they're part of your application for your end users as well. So it's really like a developer-focused tool, but it takes a lot of the heavy lifting away from them. So best of both worlds is essentially what we've aimed to do.
Thank you for explaining. And how about the pricing? How does it work?
Yeah, so at the moment we're in our extended beta. One of the things you'll notice with any off-the-shelf tool out there is they have usage-based pricing, which I'm not rolling out for
Mm-hmm.
us in the future. But basically, as soon as you get a certain number of users on it, it's going to cost you more and more and more money. So we're doing
Yeah.
flat pricing at the moment. So you get one price per month, and it doesn't matter how much you use it. And that, what we want to optimize for at the moment is customers taking Embeddable and making amazing things with it. And in order to do that, we have a flat fixed price with no usage based model on top.
And who would you say is the target audience? Who needs Embeddable?
Yeah, so to be honest, most software companies have some type of analytics within their application. Those who want that analytics to be fast loading and really look and feel like their application are probably really good fits for us. But broadly, anyone who's putting analytics into their application could use Embeddable. So it's really across market. I mean, the companies that we work with so far, we have all the way from startups to $1 billion revenue companies and unicorns and things like that across a broad range of industries, like MarTech, FinTech, EdTech. It's it's a really broad market, and hence why there's so many options within it.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to know the story of the company of Trevor.io, if you are familiar with it and can share it.
Yeah, so Trevor.io is our BI tool, which the co-founders Tom and Harry started working on in 2016. So that has been running quite a while. It's quite a mature product, and that was really designed to make it really easy for people within companies that aren't necessarily technical to be able to query their own data and get results, and then to easily pipe that around their business. So creating Slack alerts when particular things happen, dashboards, email alerts, piping data into Google Sheets and things like that. So if you think of it as anyone non-technical in your team can query your database and generate an output or a result from that and push that to where it needs to be in the business without having to really be very technical at all. So that's been going on for a long time now. You can actually sign up. We have a free tier if anybody wants to have a go. Then it's available at Trevor.io.
And a couple of years ago, you decided to launch Embeddable, right? Because you saw this need in the market.
Yes, it was just over a year ago now. We started working on it. We're in the fortunate position that we already had a team set up who have great domain knowledge in the space, and we could really hit the ground running with everything. So we went from concept to first users on the platform in about 4 or 5 months. Since then, so that was in December, we took the first users onto the platform.
Nice.
Now we're working with over 60 companies now, so it's been going well.
That's great. And do you have separate teams for each product, or is the same team?
It's the same team. We've set up Trevor to run relatively autonomously. So it's quite a mature product in terms of the features. And as a user, you can go in and set it up without having to really chat to us. Documentation is quite extensive. So yeah, same teams across both. Our engineering team cover more of Trevor than I personally do on the sort of marketing and sales and growth side. So.
And does Trevor have product market fit from your opinion?
There's definitely a use case for it across certain businesses. The thing with BI tools is there's so many of them out there, and you've got sort of your enterprise grade ones, and then your sort of ones for smaller businesses to get started. We're much more on the smaller businesses side of things, and we have plenty of customers on our free tier actually, and they sort of tend to grow with us into becoming sort of paid accounts as companies grow. It runs really nicely, as I say, relatively autonomously, which has allowed us this opportunity to create something new.
That's great. And I'd also like to know the story of you joining the company.
Yeah, so I actually worked with Tom, who's our CEO, around 10 years ago in a startup called RefMe, which was a tech company. We were both based in London at the time. I'm now in Copenhagen, and Tom's in Berlin. And I came to the end of my previous project at a company called Belego, another edtech company, sort of Spotify for textbooks sort of thing.
Okay.
We raised the Series B, the team grew, and I sort of wanted to go back to the start and start with something with a bit of a smaller team and work on something new. And Tom had this idea of Embeddable that was growing, so I joined the team and we started working on it shortly afterwards. So, yeah.
That's great. And is it hard for you to lead the go-to-market for such a niche space? I mean, you also have to have some technical background. I think it's different than selling to other types of clients, right?
Yeah, so I'm quite fortunate in that my sort of background has been growth, but growth in early stage tech startups where I've actually, I've built out the data architecture for one of the previous startups I worked in and then managed the product. And then in my last company also ran a sort of cross-functional product growth squad, including like engineers and designers and stuff. So I'm quite used to working with our buyer or the people that are interested in using Embeddable, which is typically the sort of technical teams. And yeah, I picked up a little bit along the way in terms of how things work on the technical side. So luckily, I'm in a quite okay position to handle the task. But yeah, if you went in without any of that background knowledge, it might be a bit tough to pick up.
And from your experience, what would you say are the top go-to-market strategies for getting the first customers at a startup?
Yeah, so we were quite clear about this a year ago that we knew we had a great idea. We chatted to loads of people about it before we started on it, and it really resonated with people. And we already had some people that were interested in working with us if we built it. So what we actually set ourselves is sort of incremental goals of getting initially 10 companies to sign on to using it, and then a further 30, and we were oversubscribed fortunately for those two sort of batches, and since then, yeah, I think we had around 40 companies lined up before we had the platform ready. So yeah, I mean, if you have the capacity to do it and you know what you're doing and you've got a good story, then getting started early and getting people lined up for using your product, I would highly recommend, because it's been really powerful for us to get initial customer feedback, to help them shape what the product's going to be, and then also to hit the ground running with customers straight off the bat. It's we were quite lucky that we chose that strategy.
Thank you for sharing. What are the biggest challenges that you faced since joining the company, or some lessons learned?
I mean, every day is a challenge in its own way. There's plenty of stuff going on. Luckily, we're very busy, what I would describe as good busy.
Yes.
So it's always a challenge also trying to find the right thing to focus on in terms of like the marketing strategy, because you want to think long term. You want to think sort of medium to long term. How can we develop an ecosystem around the product? How can we, boost our SEO? These kinds of things that deliver value maybe in the medium to longer term. But when you're working in an earlier stage company, maybe your runway isn't that long. Maybe you need to deliver results right now. So it's this balancing act of trying to deliver value now whilst creating the environment for success in the future. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the toughest bit of my role. Yeah.
What about the vision? What is the vision for Embeddable?
Yeah, so well, we believe that like essentially engineers are spending way too much time on building out these analytics experiences, and it's actually because it affects every software company out there. It's actually harming the rate at which we innovate in tech companies across the board. Either it's harming the rate that we innovate, or customers are getting a really bad experience in terms of the analytics that are being shown to them. And when you show analytics to customers, that can be incredibly powerful. I mean, if you look at like a really simple example to understand would be like Amazon. When you go to cancel, they show you how much money you have saved with them over the period that you've been with them. That kind of thing can have a massive business impact for them and generate a lot of revenue by being able to surface information. So when you're not able to deliver great analytics and you're not able to deliver them fast and easily, you miss business opportunities. But you also miss business opportunities if you're spending too much time on the engineering for these things. So we believe that broadly as a whole, with this approach, we'll be able to create a lot more efficiency within the businesses that work with us, and ultimately help them to deliver results and innovate faster.
Thank you for sharing. How about your story, your life story? How did you start your career in tech?
It was sort of fell into it, really. I hear a lot of people say that they sort of just ended up in the role that they're in. But yeah, I moved to Madrid for a year when I was doing my degree to work for a company called Amadeus, and I started playing football with people through this app called Timpic, which was what they call pachangas in Spain. Which is where somebody hires a pitch and they say, I've got a pitch, okay. I need 10 people, and people just sign up. So it's like a community sports app. I loved it. So I messaged the founder and said, can I come and work for you after I finished my degree? He said, yes. I joined in a growth role. And then I was on growth, and I went through a series of companies doing various different things and just trying to pick up everything. I wanted to understand how everything worked. So I'd started off in sort of like a marketing role, and then moved into like doing some data architecture and then product management, but all the time sort of bridging out from this sort of growth and marketing role. So yeah, it's just evolved. Different jobs have taught me new things, and ended up where I ended up.
Great story. And what would you say to your younger self, or to somebody that just finished college? Your best piece of advice.
To somebody that's just finished college, most importantly, you can do anything. Just pick up stuff, say, yep, I'll do that, and give it a go. Like if you go and work stuff out yourself, you can learn anything, and it's not always that tough. Common sense usually helps you a long way. And when you're if you join like a startup business early stage, common sense is all you have. You don't always have data. And you don't always have somebody that you can ask for advice. So actually joining a startup early stage and then just grabbing opportunities, and trying to teach yourself by doing, if that's the way you learn, is a really great way to pick up skills and get good at what you do.
Thank you so much. Do you have a favorite software that you use and would recommend to other people, apart from your own?
Yeah. Oddly enough, I absolutely love using Google Sheets. I'm one of those Google Sheets nerds who loves doing all of the formulas and spending ages making something really complex and beautiful. I've currently got I've actually got four Google Sheets tabs open on the screen next to me. Not the most exciting one, not everybody's favorite, but yeah, personally, I love it. You get loads of value out of looking into the data. So.
What is your best piece of advice for a founder or a team looking to hire somebody that manages growth or go-to-market strategy? How do you find the right person?
I think if you know somebody who is good at growth, or has built companies, or has built teams, if you can't hire them, ask them to help you with hiring somebody, because it is a very specialist role. It's specialist in that it's very broad, and that's when you don't know a role yourself, it's really helpful to get somebody to help you with hiring that role who does know it. So I had the same thing. I was trying to hire for SEO. It took us 6 months to work out what we needed to hire for, and we made some mistakes. Not at the company we're at now, but in a previous life. If you're hiring for something that you don't really understand yourself, it's really hard. So get advice, get somebody in to have like a 20-minute chat with somebody, with a candidate, before you hire them, who you know actually knows that domain. I think that can be really helpful.
Thank you so much. Those were the questions for today. If you have anything else to share on the podcast, please do.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great to chat. It's good to see you again, Christian. I hope I'll see you at another event soon. Appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much for joining. You did great, and yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Christian.